Good morning. How's it going so far? Good.
It's cold in here.
It is cold. I know. It is cold. I am one of the pediatricians just next door. So that's my clinic next door that I work at UofL Pediatrics downtown. And we have a very busy urban practice bustling with lots and lots of skin findings. So this is a topic near and dear to my heart. And I welcome any questions as you guys go along. Feel free to make comments if you would like to add something that maybe a clinical world that you guys would like to share, experience that you'd like to share. I absolutely welcome this. I think this is I want it to be a rich discussion and ask plenty of questions. The best part about my lecture is pictures. It's way more fun. So let's get started. What I'd like to do is make this very straightforward. I like to make it as simple and easy to digest and easy to remember as possible. So I'm going to break it up into what is it? When you see it, what does it look like? How do you know? How do you treat it? How do you exclude from school? And then I want to break it up into just categories. So we're going to start with parasites because that's a very common thing that you guys see and plagues school children. Fungi, bacteria, viruses, and then a little bit of allergy. So parasites. What we're going to, initially I started with head lice, but because you guys are experts at head lice, I have one slide on it, but so we're not going to focus on head lice. But first we're going to start with scabies. So scabies is what we call the great imitator. I would say it's one of the more commonly missed diagnoses, especially when folks go to urgent care or see adult physicians. They don't recognize what it looks like in children because it can be really subtle when it first starts. But the most common sign, the thing that I want you to remember is that it has this intense pruritus. Nothing itches like this. Has anybody had scabies? I have. I'm a pediatrician, so I come in contact with it. Oh my goodness! I was itching at the side. I didn't even see anything and I was itching. So when you see a child who is digging at themselves, even if you don't see a ton of rash, they really should probably go ahead and get seen by a physician. And this is what it can look like. Look how subtle that is. It's just these little teeny tiny bumps, and on the top of the bump might be a little teeny tiny pinpoint scab, and that's it when it starts. You might see another bump elsewhere. After a while, it will start to make burrows or lines. Sometimes they're a little bit snake-like, but that is not necessarily the case. And I'd say most of the time I don't see burrows. I just see pinpoint dots. One of the other things you'll find is that classically people think they has to be in the waistline or in the interdigital spaces. Sometimes that's true, especially if you let it go on for a while, but you don't want to wait for those to happen. You want to catch it when it first starts. And so I would not, just because it's not in those places, I still want you to think about it, even if it's not there, even if they're kind of scattered little tiny bumps. The way that it's transmitted is from a contaminated person, and these little scabies can live in fabric for up to 72 hours off the skin. So it's something that you will find in towels, clothing, hats, sheets, bedding, stuffed animals, things like that. And it can look all different kinds of ways. This is certainly a more severe case. And a lot of these patches of excoriation or scratching is just because it's gone on for a long time, and now they're just digging at themselves and opening up the skin. This is a little more progressed, and they can get to be little nodules or firm bumps, and that's a little more progressed. And this is what it can look like in an infant, where it's just a sheet of bumps and redness, so it can get quite severe. The way we manage it is we have to, so if you see a kid that you think may have scabies, they should not wait till the end of school. They should go ahead and go home and see someone that day. Sometimes if they've had it before, or sometimes they can even call their pediatrician, or if they have a close contact that we know has scabies, they can even make a phone call to their pediatrician. And a lot of times we will call them the medicine and educate them how to do it over the phone without a visit. So you may say, call your doctor, especially if you know somebody else in the house has already been diagnosed with it. It just saves them a visit and saves some exposure to other children in the waiting room. So the 5% permethrin, this is prescription. The 1% permethrin that you guys use for head lice is not prescription, but this is. So they do have to get in touch with us. The 1% is not effective. So you have to leave it on 8 to 14 hours so they sleep in it. Head to toe, you put on a cream, and then you wash it off in the morning. We generally ask them to repeat it in 1 week, but they can go ahead and go back to school the next day after they're treated. The reason why we ask to repeat it in a week is typically because maybe not everyone else in their environment has been treated. You want to encourage, they have to have all of their other close contacts that are affected treated at the same time. And so it's possible that whoever, the source of the scabies may have been exposed to them again. So I don't want you to think they have to be out of school for a week because we ask them to repeat it every week. They can still go back the next day.
And is it contagious with the cream on, like that first initial treatment?
Presumably until it's washed off.
Okay.
That's kind of how we would, we would wait till it's washed off. Yes, ma'am.
You catch it through hand holding and shared fabric, like sharing towels. Am I right?
Yes, you can share it by touching the skin and share it by bedding or any kind of fabric that's been shared. It typically doesn't, they don't like to live on hard surfaces. So when we do environmental decontamination, what we educate families to do in their household is to wash everything in the washer, and so you can also do things like dry it for 30 minutes on hot if it's something you don't want to wash. Or you can just tell them to bag it up in a garbage bag and seal it for 72 hours. So like a comforter, if they don't have the ability to wash their comforter, stuffed animals, things like that, they can just bag them up because they won't live longer than 3 days on the skin.
So it's not going to be highly contagious for one student?
Typically it's not. Typically it's not. It's something that you would usually see within the same household, sleeping together in the same bed. Sometimes it's that the family just got sometimes what happens is they were watching another child. That's almost always what I hear is, oh yeah, well I watched my nephew the other day and he came over and so he brought the rash into the, they played together all day kind of experience. Or a child goes to their father's house for the weekend. So a lot of times that's what I hear. I rarely hear that it's spread at school. It's just not something that I commonly hear. It's typically when they live in the house for at least a day. But that's just my experience. So I'm not going to go through head lice, but I just want to make sure we have some high yield points that everybody kind of agrees on, because these are the things that I see and occasionally really want to have to communicate with the school back and forth. And one of the most important things is to understand what a viable nit is. A viable nit means that it's alive and can hatch. A dead nit means that it's stuck there and you can see it, but it's not going to hatch and it's not going to cause any problem. And unless you comb those dead nits out, they're probably going to stay attached to the hair shaft. And so the eggs have to be kept warm, just like a chicken sits on in the nest. And so if the egg is further away from the scalp, more than a half or 1 centimeter, then that's a dead egg. It just isn't going to be warm and incubated long enough to be able to hatch. So that's the most important thing to remember, is that as long as the parent has done the treatment appropriately, then I want look for obviously live lice, right? That's an easy, for sure easy thing. But if you see nits that are within a centimeter from the scalp, that's a live nit, and they need to go back and see their physician or complete another course of treatment. Any questions about that? Thoughts? How many people have had a lot of trouble with, lice is the drama that it causes. Yeah, everybody has experienced the pain. And it also has some stigma with it, scabies and lice. Parents don't want their kids to have a parasite. They think that implies something that they've done incorrectly or wrong. And so I have found that the first thing I tell people, just to calm them down, is that this is not your fault. You did not do anything wrong as a parent for your kid to get this. And then there's this kind of like big sigh, like, you're not blaming me. And then I get in the door. Then I'm starting to build a relationship with them, and so they trust me. Because they're like, because they usually say, well, now I don't let them, I make them wash their hair, and they blame themselves. So take away that blame, I think, initially, and then it's easier to kind of work with them on life.
In our policy at school, we have that we recommend retreating them in a week. Do you
Yes.
still recommend that too? In 1 week, just to make sure that.
Yes, we do. That's exactly right.
They're going to needs to have a new statement letter about head lice or so ago that says, yes, recognition grounds that they don't necessarily mean that there's no live lice.
Interesting. That's
That's
new to me.
They far outweigh more of an issue for them than the risk of them transmitting live lice. I think my teachers would implode if I wanted to change our policy. I think I would be lynched, but that's what the statement says.
I'll have to read that. I have not seen that. I've heard about that guideline change, so I will certainly read that. Interesting. It wasn't an editorial. Okay.
No, that was changed a while back.
And said that they had seen it on the news where they could stay at school.
Yeah, and I think you guys are all still safe to wait for, I'm a big fan when a new train arrives in town, you never want to be the first on the train or the last on the train. So you want to give it a little bit of time. And then I think once schools accept that policy and put it on board, if that happens, the AAP is not they're an excellent guiding body, right? But at the same time, you have to go by what your kind of school policies are. And I would say, oh, that's interesting. That's exciting news. We'll look into it and potentially change our school policy depending on what we decide. So thanks for sharing that with me. That's kind of how I would approach it. So bed bugs. Everybody has trouble with this. Maddening. And why is it maddening? Because there's not like an easy fix. There's no easy fix. And typically the folks who have trouble with bed bugs don't have great financial resources. And so you're like, yeah, all you have to do is go get an exterminator. And I'm like, exterminator? That's a lot of money, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. And the kid continues to get bitten by bed bugs. So what we find is that there are these little bugs. Have we seen one? Yeah, you can see them. You can look at the sheet and see them on the sheet. They look different as they go through their kind of life cycle. And so I've seen them embedded in bumps in the skin where they have wings, and you can kind of pull I know, right? You can pull the little bug out and they have wings. So it doesn't necessarily look like that because it depends where it is in its life cycle. But they kind of look like mosquito bites. But you can imagine that they're usually in places, they're scattered all over the body versus just on areas that are exposed. They'll be under clothes. Typically mosquito bites are not commonly under clothes. Can, but just not as much. And what happens is they feed on blood at night. And so that's why they're bed bugs, and that's when they feed. And so what we have found is that over time, probably the biggest offender, how these kids get them, is that they couldn't believe that there was this great new sofa or mattress just on the side of the road, or just at the, they're like, why would anybody want to get rid of that? That's a great deal. It's free. Or they maybe at a consignment shop or at a local, like Salvation Army, for example, because people will just say, what, I don't want this anymore, I'm going to donate it. And they haven't had time for the bed bugs to die. So you may want to ask that question of your families, because if they can get rid of that, that may help a lot. The other way the bed bugs get in the house is just they crawl in under the cracks of the house. And so it may not necessarily be that they have been exposed to a new item in their home, but they can kind of crawl under the cracks. And so what has to happen is those cracks need to be sealed. So what you can say is if they're living in, if they're renting or living in government housing, then the landlord or the owner has to fix it for them. And again, so that they need to not just get an exterminator, but they also should contact the landlord to have them look at the structure of the home to see if they can help. It's just symptomatic treatment, just like a mosquito bite. They don't live under the skin typically. When you find them stuck in a wound or stuck in there, they're dead at that point. So they don't live under the skin, they bite and then they're gone. So these are not contagious even a little bit, not contagious at all. So you never want to send a kid home with something that looks like mosquito bites or bed bug bites. All we're going to do is say, put a little hydrocortisone on there, keep your skin moisturized. If if they're excoriated or open, they put some antibiotic ointment on there to keep them from getting infected. The time that I would want you to send them home is if you think they're secondarily infected. So they're warm, they're red, they're oozy, then we would certainly want to see them at the end of school that day. Okay, moving on to ticks. So tick-borne illness is scary, right? Because this is when, now you're dealing with life and death. And so how do you guys, and you guys may be the first people to see these rashes. So this is a big one. I want you guys to know this more than most other things I'm talking about, okay? Because the other things, it's like, oh yeah, they may spread in the school, but it's still just going to cause a lot of itching and annoyance, but nobody's going to go down from it, Now, tick-borne illness requires immediate medical treatment. So I want to describe the type of rashes that would make you go, oh, maybe just a 911, or a parent take them directly to the ER in 5 minutes, but I want them to be seen quickly. Okay, so this is what we're going to start with. Has anybody seen erythema migrans or the target after a tick bite? Yeah, I see heads nodding. So when I see this on a child, so it's what happens is first you get the red ring like this, and it grows bigger. This redness gets bigger. And there's a target, there's a bullseye in the center. That is Lyme disease. They have been infected with spirochete. You know that they have the spirochete in the blood. Nothing else causes that. That is Lyme. That is Lyme. So we treat them right away with doxycycline and get them. If we catch it at this stage, then almost 100% of the time they're fine. They don't go on to develop any sequelae of Lyme disease. As long as we catch it. It doesn't have to be in 5 minutes, no, it just has to be within a couple days. But ideally, if you saw that, you'd say, oh, you need to go see somebody today. But it's not urgent, you're not worried about them, half an hour, It's just that you want to get them that doxycycline quickly. This is one where I would, if I were you, just out of the goodness of your heart, follow up with them and say, did you go? Did you get them? Are they on it? Okay, good. Just to help. Parents may not understand the seriousness. They might just see some redness, they don't know. But, and I know you guys can't, what I've heard from previous groups is that you guys can't give a diagnosis. I've heard you guys say that a lot, is that, you can't say this is Lyme.
You can say it appears to be.
Correct, yeah. So I'm worried it may be Lyme, but it is. This is what we call a pathognomonic sign, meaning nothing else does that. So we know that's just by looking at that rash. Okay. Now, this rash, see teeny tiny red dots. So it seems like not a big deal, but can be incredibly terrifying because what I want you to do is press on them. When you press on them, you pull your little finger back and you look, and if they turn white or they just turn skin colored, that's called blanching. And that's a good thing. You want them to blanch. You want them to turn white. Let's say you press on it and you move your finger back and it stays red. It never blanches. You cannot press like the blood out of it. So you pull your finger down, you're like, oh, it's still red. The name of that is called petechiae. Okay, petechiae. That means that something is bad wrong. There are a couple things that can cause it that aren't terrifying, but there are some things that really this can be a very severe problem for the child. Maybe they have really low platelets, they may have Rocky Mountain spotted fever, but petechiae are always something that I want them to be seen right away. So do not pass go, come see me and we'll get this figured out.
Can it also be meningitis?
Absolutely, yeah, but it's almost always something bad. Leukemia, cancers, but this is certainly typically how Rocky Mountain spotted fever will present. Rocky Mountain spotted fever, before you get the petechiae, or right as you're getting them, they may have fever, bellyache, headache. That's a lot of times so they look like they're sick, but they don't look like they're sick with anything bad at first. They just look like they're, flu-like, got strep maybe. But then you look at them, and what I want you to do is anytime you just see a sick kid, look for rash. They don't even know this is popped up. They don't feel it, it doesn't itch. So you guys have to use your eyes to look for it. Usually in Rocky Mountain, it's going to start on your hands and your feet. So the hands you might see, but you're not going to, but if a kid looks really, really sick, and you see a rash, you may want to take their socks and shoes off and look at their feet. Not many things will give you a palm rash or a sole rash. Not many things do that except for bad things. So if you see a rash on palms and soles, almost always they need to be seen right away.
Is that like Coxsackie or
Well, you can, and we'll talk about that in pictures. But
Isn't it on the hands?
This type of rash, if it's so Coxsackie, viral rashes, they will blanch.
Okay.
So you push on it and you're like, oh, okay, that's okay. But if you have a rash on the palms and soles that does not blanch, that's urgent. So the blanching is kind of weird.
Do you see a lot of the Rocky Mountain spotted fever around here?
I used to practice in Virginia, and I saw a lot in Virginia. But I understand that it's moving toward Kentucky, but I have not seen very much of it here. So I think it's, as ticks migrate over time, I think we'll start to see more of it. I have heard of cases in Kentucky, but it's certainly not as common as what I was used to. So that's a good thing.
Is it hard to identify that target when they're on the scalp, like the tick that's been removed from the scalp, or or is it following after we follow it?
Usually when I see them, 50% of the time there was never a seen tick. And actually that's not just me, but that's documented, like in studies, that most of the time there's no history of tick bite. You just see it.
Oh.
They feel fine, they look amazing. You just see this rash like, oh, Miss Smith, what is this? You're like, oh, that's nice. Because a lot of times they don't even have that tick bite history. And if they do have a history of tick bite, it might have been a week ago. Because it takes time for this to develop. So usually you're not pulling the tick off and seeing that at the same time. That would be really, really odd. It'd be a big old engorged tick. Because it takes so long for that. If you see Rocky Mountain and you treat them in like 24 hours, or treat them quickly, they have like 100% chance of survival. If you leave this untreated, their chance is about 0%. Right? No pressure. Right? That's how I feel, right? No pressure. Don't make the wrong decision. But that's the reason why I show it. Even though it's uncommon, I just want everybody to know that one.
How long does it last studying now?
It's a great question. It's probably weeks. And as long as they've been treated with doxycycline, you presume that line is killed. Some things like with antibiotics, for example, we treat and it's like, oh, maybe it's working, maybe it's not. That's not true with doxy. It kills that stuff. You don't have to worry. It's a really effective treatment.
Will the bullseye go away?
It'll go away slowly, but it's really more of your immune system's response. So it's not a sign of this is not because the spirochete or in the skin. It's just that's how the skin is responding. So if they still have the bullseye rash, it's okay for them to be at school as long as they've gotten that doxycycline.
I can see how that would be easy to see on the arm or leg, but in the head or...
I've never heard of a case of, I'm glad you guys said that. I've never heard of this being on the scalp. Maybe it could. I just have never heard of it happening there. It's usually on the trunk.
What other signs do you see with worms if you don't? Because I know they don't always have worms.
So usually it's fever and malaise, right? History of tick bite. It is a hard thing to diagnose. It's coming to Kentucky and like in Virginia and the northeastern area of the United States is a big problem. And Kentucky does have Lyme now. For a long time, people refused to believe it, but no, we have it. It's really here. The ticks really do have it now. So it's just not as common as you see on the East Coast. But by all means, and Lyme is hard. It's just one of those hard diagnoses to make because it looks like a lot of things. But it's usually during the summer months, and you guys want to ask me, maybe they went to camp and maybe they traveled to Virginia, for example. And those are the cases where I'd be even more concerned about recent travel history to a really high Lyme prevalent area.
Contacted through light, or not light, tick.
Yes, it's a very specific tick, and it's a very specific little spirochete that does it.
Doc, usually when we see petechiae, it's with pertussis, when they cough really hard or they vomit.
Right, right. And that's what,
we see that, but it's not.
and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's my only exception to the rule, is when it's due to direct trauma. So just because it's due to direct trauma does not mean they don't have low platelets. So if you see it, I still want to see that kid. They may be throwing up, right, and get petechiae, but I need to do a CBC that day to make sure their platelet count's okay. So you're right, that I can say, if I do that CBC and I say, oh no, their platelets are good, then I can send them home comfortably and say, you know what, you just have it from too much pressure when you're vomiting. But I don't know that. They may have it because their platelets are low and they're vomiting. So I still want to see. So let's move to fungal infections. These are the four kind of things that we'll talk about. So tibia corporis is when it's on the skin. Tibia capitis is when it's in the scalp. When it's in the scalp and it sits there for a really long time, you can develop what we call a carry-on. And it's boggy, squishy, oozy. Then tibia versicolor is certainly very, very different. It presents very differently. And it's really on the shoulders. It looks usually very pale and kind of flaky and dry sometimes. On the body, we can treat it with topical antifungal. Well, clotrimazole, I don't even care which one it is because they're all pretty effective. It just takes a long time to kill. They're very hardy. So what I want you to do is say, you know what, if you see it and they've started treatment, they're fine to go to school as long as they have a bandage over it or clothing over it. You just don't want it to be exposed out to the world. With tibia capitis, there are no topicals that work. They have to see a physician and get a prescription. There are no topicals. So you can put topicals on there, it's just not going to work. So we have to give them an oral prescription. We usually use griseofulvin. It takes forever. It's like 4 to 6 weeks. Now the problem is they can't keep their head covered. I mean, when they have, so what do? Well, once they start griseofulvin, then we presume that they can go back to school. You just don't want them to be sharing brushes, combs, mats, sleeping mats, things like that. Tibia versicolor is, it's just a little different. It's a different fungus. It's called Malassezia. It's usually can sit on the skin for years and people don't really care. It's not very itchy, or it can be a little itchy. Usually if you get sweaty or you get hot from the shower, it'll change. That's the reason why it's called versicolor, is that when you come out of the shower or something like that, you got hot or out in the sunshine, it may look reddened, but then it goes back to looking hypopigmented or pale. And it's annoying because you have to treat it with topical selenium sulfide 3 times a week, and then you have to treat it again in another week, and then maybe you have to do it every week for months to keep it at bay. Yes.
Okay, a couple parents tell me, my doctor told me not to cover it
for tibia corporis, yeah. Well, it can be open to air when they go home. But when they're at school,
what I told them when they're at school, it needs to be covered. They can't produce a note saying that.
well, they would need a note.
A lot of
But
times
there's
they go
no-
to the emergency room or something
Yeah.
like that, the doctor.
Yeah, I think at that point you just have to say, that's interesting because our policy says, you have to blame it on the rules. But I really do think that there's no, for example, for that, there's no medicine behind keeping it open air. That's not going to make it any faster. But the antifungal is, really not. If it's something, the one time I don't want anything included is if they put steroid on it. This is just a general aside, not associated with the fungus, but just a general aside. So if they put hydrocortisone, if they put triamcinolone, or any of the steroid ointments on, if you include that with a bandage, that increases the amount of potency. It makes it stronger, and so don't put a bandage on that.
Is that salts and blue?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. This is Parasites rosea, and doesn't it kind of look like tibia versicolor? A little bit. It has those kind of oval plaques. It's paler than the skin, it's hypopigmented. But what is different about pityriasis? Pityriasis likes to do the Christmas tree pattern. See that, how it follows the line of the skin? And it's very symmetric. Typically, really symmetric rashes are not due to infections. It's usually the immune system response to something. Because infections, you can think about, if it's moving through the skin, it's probably not going to be perfectly symmetric. But perfectly symmetric things make me think, it's the body's immune response, maybe to an infection, but it's an immune response. So what this starts with sometimes is a bigger patch. We call that the herald patch. That usually pops up first, and then this develops. It might not be itchy, or it might, but whatever it is, it's fine. We don't care. I mean, there's nothing to worry about with pityriasis rosea. It's just going to go away on its own. It may take a long time. We just don't want people to continue to get treatment thinking that it's an infection, and that causes more skin irritation. So we just say, oh yeah, it's just pityriasis. You can put some moisturizing cream on it, eventually it'll go away. Not all of them have a herald patch. Some of them, like 1 out of 5, won't have a herald patch. But almost all of them will have that really beautiful Christmas tree symmetry. Most of the time it's on the trunk. And you can continue to get new lesions for weeks. So that always stresses the parents out. But it's spreading, doc, it's spreading. Like, I know, here, let me show you pictures to prove this is really what it is, and this is really not, So I have to convince, I have to work to convince your kid is really fine. Not contagious either, not even a little bit contagious. So let's talk about bacterial infections, specifically the ones that you guys will see. So impetigo, honey-crusted lesions, most of the time it's around the nose. It's usually after flu season or rhinovirus season when they've had this, runny nose they're digging at, and then they scratched open, and now they've got a cold plus flu plus impetigo. Abscess. So an abscess is a boil. And how many times do people come in and say, I got this spider bite? It's not a spider bite. It's just not a spider bite. So anytime a kid comes to you and says, I got a spider bite, it's almost never a spider bite. Spider bites cause typically if it is a big deal spider bite, where it's causing true damage, it's not just looks like an insect bite. There's necrosis or liquefies the center, right? Oils have a collection of fluid in the center. And a spider bite's not going to do that. So a spider bite will cause it, it'll look kind of ulcerated or wet, like the skin is gone in the middle. So this needs antibiotics, or at least a visit to the doctor. Maybe we'll do an IND or an incision and drainage if it's really big, and put them on antibiotics. If it's really small, we may just put a little topical antibiotic on it if it's not too bad, and kind of wait for it to drain using warm compresses on its own, so we don't have to put the kid through a procedure if it's not warranted. But these are fine to return to school once they've seen their doctor, just as long as it's covered. That has to be covered. It's almost always MRSA. Everybody, right? For a long time, that was a real scary word. The news used it against us. They're like, MRSA, it's killing people. Well, there's different kinds of MRSA. MRSA stands for methicillin-resistant staph aureus. All it is a staph infection of the skin that in the past we could use a certain class of medicines to kill. But that bug has outsmarted those medicines, and now we can't use those anymore. So it's just a sign of antibiotic resistance. So we still have antibiotics that work to kill it just fine. We just have to choose the right one. And yes, there are types of MRSA that can be very dangerous, and those are typically hospital-acquired, and this is typically from community-acquired MRSA, so they operate very differently. The strep rash over here, I think probably by this point you guys have all seen that, because it says nothing else looks like a strep rash. So it's really sandpapery. You close your eyes and you can feel it's just like a sheet of sandpaper. A lot of times before it spreads like that, it usually will start in the axilla, the armpit, sometimes the groin, sometimes around the mouth, maybe kind of upper chest and neck, and it's not kind of subtle at first. It may not be red, it may just be kind of flesh colored, and it starts to get redder. But it usually crops up right as they're getting sick and they feel that, But a lot of times they don't even know they have it. They're not scratching at it or digging at it, you just see it. So See, this is another child, kid comes to you with sore throat, or they don't even have sore throat, they just have headache, fever, or belly pain, fever. But you say your throat hurt? Nope. But they have this beautiful strep rash, and you're like, okay, well, I'm worried you have strep, and you need to go see somebody today. So how many times do you see actual, like something wrong in the back of the throat with strep? A lot of times you don't, especially not like as soon as it starts. It's usually like strep that has been going on for a couple of days that you'll see like true exudate or pus and tonsils. So it's good to look back there, look back there. But just because, the throat can look amazing, perfect, and they still have strep pharyngitis. So look in their throat, but don't count on that as being a positive. It could be normal.
Doesn't the rash come after they're no longer, if the fever's broken and everything, doesn't the rash come after?
So not with strep. That's roseola that you're thinking of. So that is very true, that with roseola, that they have a high fever for 3 or 4 days, fever breaks, and boom, rash. Yeah, and that's typical. That's a real classic presentation for that. And roseola is a virus. So with strep, this is sometimes what we'll see. This is petechiae, so if you pressed on those, you couldn't make it blanch. Petechiae in the throat. And certainly we have to treat them with antibiotics to make it go away, and they can go back to school 24 hours after starting treatment. So impetigo, just to kind of go over that with as far as what to treat it with, you can't use just regular old plain old Neosporin for this, because a lot of times it's MRSA, because about 50% of skin infections now are MRSA. So they have to go to the doctor and get a prescription for topical mupirocin, also known as Bactriban.
Is that going to be off prescription anytime soon?
I have no idea. You'd think so, but it's very expensive, and I don't think anybody could afford it over the counter. So it's kind of protective that it's prescription to families. Because as soon as it goes over the counter, insurance companies don't cover it. So you think, oh, I want these things. We can prescribe it. What's the big deal? It's usually cost. So thankfully, if it's prescription, your insurance company will cover 90% of it or whatever. It's like, it used to be like $200. So can you imagine going to buy an over-counter medicine? Like $40 for an ointment, even if they got it down to $40. So they have to really figure out how to make it cheap before it goes over. And then a lot of times this will run in the family. So you can ask, do other people in your family get boils? And a lot of times the parents will say, oh yeah, I get them off and on all the time. So you might want to go to your, see somebody too, because it certainly can be transmitted. Many of us, about half of us, a third to half of us in this room are colonized with MRSA. It loves to live in the nose, buttocks area. But it's a common thing anymore. And so that's why, it doesn't have to cause infection. You could be swabbed and positive for MRSA, a lot of us. But it's just that it lives on the skin, and so anytime now that you get a skin infection, you're scratching at your nose, kids dig at things, it's on, and then they open the skin and it crawls right in and causes an infection. Okay, so let's talk about viral infections. So this is molluscum contagiosum. So they're little curly papules. They're shiny, they don't itch. Sometimes they'll have what we call an umbilicated center. They're just like a little divot, a little smooth round divot in the middle. Warts that have, we call them verrucas. They're usually dry, rough on the top. You might see what looks like little seeds in the wart. The seed is just old blood vessels that have died. Chicken pox. Everybody has seen chicken pox or not? Right, it's been a long time. There's a lot of pediatricians, new pediatricians, we've never seen chicken pox. We've vaccinated, so. But it's, what we call a rose, or a dewdrop on a rose petal. So it looks like a little teeny blister, and at the bottom of the blister is a little red kind of flat area. So dewdrop on a rose petal. But then they start to crust. So when they pop open, they scab, And what's special about chickenpox is that it's all in different stages of healing. So you may have, one brand new one here and then a scab here. If they're all exactly in the same stage, they're all blistered, they're all scabbed. What do we worry about? Anybody know? Smallpox. Right? So chickenpox will be in different stages of healing. That's a really special thing about chickenpox. Smallpox, they all crop up together and they all change together. Fifth disease, or we call it slap cheek rash, is where you get the rash typically after you've been contagious. So by the time you get the rash, you're really not contagious. So we'll kind of go through those a little bit better. So molluscum is caused by a pox virus, but it can just live under their skin and you don't really care that they have molluscum. It's not going to hurt them. And usually they're not itchy, so you can keep them covered. Do you have to remove them? What do you guys think?
They take them off this one.
Yeah, well, right.
Scratch it first.
Yeah, if the child scratches it, certainly without keeping it clean and sterile, then they can spread the fluid that's infected with pox virus and spread it to other areas. And you can certainly remove them. It's just that it's painful to remove, and they can scar. So usually we just say wait it out.
Heavy spray, like in the pool.
Probably less likely the pool because the pool has great chemicals to kill viruses, but it's more likely to be spread with close direct skin contact. And these you don't send them home from school. It may live on the skin for months and months and months. So there's 4 different kinds of warts. And most of the time they're also harmless and they also will live there for a long time. But sometimes they can be painful and they can get super infected. So if you see a wart that looks kind of red and warm and oozy, then we want to see that kid that day. Usually they get super infected because they can easily bleed or crack open and the kid likes to dig them. So you want to make sure that their nails are, are short and clean and they're doing a lot of hand washing. You can get it from the pool deck, right? So it's usually if the child is wet and moist from a shower, a lot of times that's when things are more easily scratched open, and so that's a higher chance of it being infected, but not necessarily just like 2 friends swimming in the pool. It's more of the contact when the skin is wet afterward.
Well, I was wondering, like, with the little kiddie pools where you don't have chlorine and stuff, but you've got your little ones.
Oh, yeah. If you're thinking about
just.
Yes. If you're thinking about home pools that are not.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. With no chemicals, yes. So fifth disease is parvovirus B19. And what happens is that before this rash pops up, they just were feeling bad, maybe a week or 2 before. And that's when they were contagious. They had fever, malaise, felt bad, maybe muscle aches and sore throat. They went to the doctor, the strep was negative, the flu was negative. And you're like, I don't know, it's some virus. And then poof, they get bright red cheeks. By that point, you're like, oh, now we know you had fifth disease. But sorry about your luck because there's nothing we can do at this point. Make you feel better and you're not contagious. So what we want to do is, because parvovirus B19 is very dangerous to a fetus, we say, have you been in contact with any pregnant women? Right? So if you have, you may want to have that, let them know that they were exposed and they should go see their OB doctor. So that's when, so if you have kids with slap cheek. Now, what's annoying about fifth disease is that after their cheeks get red, they may have red cheek issue for weeks, months. So like every time they get out of the shower, their cheeks they still get really red. Or they get kind of this lacy, what we call lacy reticular rash that comes out on their chest when they get hot. But just because that rash keeps coming up, it doesn't mean anything is new or bad. It just means that it takes a long time for the skin to change and get back to normal.
And these kids can stay in school.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's just at that point we give a hindsight diagnosis. We say, oh, you were contagious the last couple of weeks, and you think, were you around anybody immunocompromised, maybe with HIV or a pregnant woman? And if you were, notify them.
So then if you have an outbreak and say it's going on for 4 weeks and the kindergarten kids, they keep coming up, do you still recommend
they see their pediatrician when they have those slapped cheeks? Or,
At that point, the horse is out of the barn. Yeah. So there's nothing to do now. If you know there's an outbreak in a class, and you have kids with fever, you know, that are actively sick with fever and the malaise and field ads, then you can tell the parent, now they probably have parvovirus B19, or you're worried they have parvovirus B19, and they need to be excluded from being around people who are immunocompromised. Like that's what you could say, go see your doctor, but that's what we would say is, oh, you're in the midst of an outbreak, you can't go back to school until your fever is gone, and you're feeling better, and then you can go back, but they need to be away from people who are immunocompromised.
Is there a particular trimester that a pregnant person is, which one is it?
So it could be any of them. It would just be different. So if it was a third trimester, you're more likely to not have fetal loss, you're more likely to have early, risk of prematurity, early delivery. But if it's in the first trimester, it's more likely to be fetal loss than if it's in the third trimester. It's more dangerous. Well, I don't know how you're just weighing different things. So chicken pox. Has anybody had an outbreak of varicella? Where you work? Yeah. Okay.
And
So
it's 7 and 8-year-olds that have had both varicella vaccines.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. So great, that's the point I wanted to make, is that even though we're vaccinated, we vaccinate at what ages? 1 year, 4 years, right? So if they're under a year of age, they've not had it at all, and then they get it again at age 4. And so what we found is that, we vaccinate with vaccines, and just because they have the vaccine does not mean they have the immunity. Most of the time it's true, or we would use them, but the vaccines aren't perfect. And so you can still, just because a kid comes to you and has vaccines up to date, absolutely they could still get varicella. So once they have it, certainly they need to wear a mask, because they can't, even though it's something that can be aerosolized. So that was another thing to think about, is if you guys have a case at school, you want to put a mask on them before they walk out the door, because they can cough and sneeze and spread.
But how can you be sure?
If you're worried it is, yeah. I mean, you can't be sure. There's no, and that's what's a little bit hard about chickenpox. I mean, when you see it and you recognize that pattern of rash, then it's pretty obvious when it's chickenpox. Like, oh, But you're right, that because a lot of pediatricians haven't seen it anymore, we've done such a great job of getting rid of it, that a lot of folks may not recognize it as easily. But that classic dewdrop on a rose petal, not much else does that.
So, but don't you think that what the ones we've seen a lot of times are subclinical cases where they don't all the way blossom up into the dewdrop, but they have it kind of under the skin, subclinical, they don't really break out like that.
You mean like
Yeah,
after
the
they
ones
have
that have been
vaccination?
vaccinated, yes.
Yeah, and they're freshly vaccinated, and then they get a little bit of a rash. Yeah, and you're right that at that point, but then the question is are they really even contagious?
Yeah, see, that's our issue. That's all we care about, is whether they can go to school or not.
Right, and I would say that is at the, let the pediatrician decide, but I would have them seen to be sure. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about allergic or contact dermatitis. Poison ivy. Ooh, it's itchy, right? Ugh, miserable. And it is, what's special about poison ivy is that it's, not many things have such a bizarre pattern to it. Because it's spread by the oleoresin that's spread on the skin. Usually from, you touch it, not all the time, but you usually touch it. The oils get under your fingernails, and then you spread the oils like that. Hives is a very, very obvious, and typically it's very obvious. You must say, yeah, those are hives. Most of the time when parents will tell you that you have these like raised, smooth, sometimes they're serpiginous or snake-like in appearance. But they're usually raised and smooth. They look like wheels. And what is special about hives is that the parent will say, wait, there was one just there on their back, and it's got, oh look, now it's on their belly. So it's a fast changing rash. Not much else does that but hives, typically. So poison ivy, it is a 14-day rash. So what happens is the oil from the plant gets on the skin, and however much oil touches the skin at that moment, that's where the skin will blister first. And then the areas that didn't have as much oil, that blisters later. So we call it's a type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. What does that mean? Hives are type 1. Type 1 are fast. Boom, you get the allergen comes in contact with the skin, 20 minutes to an hour later you get a rash. Poison ivy is type 4, it's slow. So they may have come in contact with the poison ivy. Day 1, they get a little, by day 4, they're like, so what I want you to understand is that just because they are having a spreading rash, it does not mean that the child is scratching and spreading it. It's just the immune response is a slow response to that poison ivy oil. When it blisters like this, a lot of times folks think that's super infection or bacterial. Maybe it is, but I would let the doctor decide. But it certainly can leak like that and not be bacterial. That can be just from the body's reaction to the poison ivy. This is called rust dermatitis. This is aerosolized poison ivy oil. So let's say that you have a family that burns their yard trash or burns, then this is how a lot of times it will present. Or even if it's just really severe and it starts to get on the face and the genitals, we can't put enough steroid cream on the face or the genitals. So we give them an oral steroid taper. And the oral steroid taper has to be to cover them from 14 days from onset, or what happens is they may go somewhere that doesn't see a lot of this and they get a 5-day burst of steroid. After the 5 days, whoom, it's back again, it's really severe. So you guys can be astute providers say, oh, they need to go back and see somebody again. So it's not that necessarily they got poison ivy again, it's just that they didn't get their rash treated long enough. What day is this usually the worst? About day 4-ish, 3, 4, 5 is kind of the peak of when it's the worst, and then it starts to chill out on its own. How do you prevent poison ivy? So if you touch it, let's say a child is out playing in the playground and you see it and you're like, oh no, it's poison ivy, and the kid's like, yeah, I'm just digging. You're like, what do you do? What's it? Throw them in the shower, yeah. Soap and water, scrub, scrub, scrub. And there's a chance that just the scrubbing and getting the oil off the skin will take care of it. You want to, ideally they would clean under their nails, and what you could do is give them a brush and let them brush it out from under their nails. And that's the best you can do. So the quicker you get them cleaned up with soap and water, the better chance they have of not getting it. Okay. So hives. Hives is a hard thing for you guys when you're out in the field, right? Because you don't know what's about to happen next. So they crop up with hives, and you think, okay, the first question I want you to ask yourself is, do they have any change in their voice? Because why? Yeah, you want them to breathe. So the larynx is the voice box, and when it swells, you get hoarse. So hoarseness most of the time is no big deal because they just have a cold. But if they have hives and hoarseness, then that tells me that, oh, the voice box may be swelling, and that's when their upper airway can close. So you can ask a bunch of questions if you want about, you look through the chart, oh, they have a peanut allergy and they ate a granola bar, or whatever. But if you have hives and hoarseness, get your EpiPen and 911, right? Because that's already a sign of upper airway swelling. Okay. Now, if they have stridor, so they're, so that's a sign of upper airway swelling. And that's different than wheezing. So wheezing is when you exhale. That's a wheeze. And that tells me it's somewhere in their lungs. The problem is in the lungs. But if it's during inspiration, that's stridor. And that means impending upper airway closure. So that is 911, EpiPen, and 911. So let's say they have hives, but everything else is fine. They're like happy, and they just have hives in their kitchen. Then that's not an emergency by any means. But just for comfort, I would send them home. Because you'd like for them to be treated with Benadryl. That's going to potentially make them sleepy or change their behavior, and you don't want that at school. So if they have hives, then that would be, in my mind, a kid that should be call the parent right away and have them picked up. So I have a list of resources for you guys. I mean, there's a million and one resources. Yeah, and it can go on and on and on. But I would just be careful when you Google. I use Google Images to teach because I'm looking for pictures, and I'd say like half the time it's labeled wrong. So just